on video. Yeah.
Got it. Perfect.
All right. Benj Pasek and Justin Paul, lyricists for La La Land. I think people are surprised when they find out that La La Land is an original musical, not just in its story, but in its songs as well. Now, you guys have a long background in songwriting from theater and in television, but this is sort of your first foray into feature film. Were you at all nervous about making the leap into that?
You know, you'd say people were surprised that it's an original movie musical. We were surprised that anyone was willing to make an original movie musical, and we are so thrilled that people let Damien and Justin Hurwitz pursue that insane dream.
Yeah. And I think in terms of being nervous about making the leap into it, I think if it had been a different kind of project or assignment, maybe so. But I think for us, we felt such confidence in our collaborators, in Damien and Justin, and also, they basically wanted us to come on board because they wanted this to feel like a real, true musical. And like, obviously the devices are different from a stage musical, but it wasn't coming on saying, hey, we want you to come and bring what you do, but we're doing something else. It was really, come do what you do because we're wanting to do that just on film. And so that was really exciting. And in a way, it eased us a little bit because we thought, okay, we're not being asked to do anything but what we love to do and what we want to do and what we think we know how to do.
Yeah, and ultimately we're doing what we do for stage, which is writing songs that progress narrative, and songs that tell story, and songs that can believably come out of a character's mouth and help develop and further plot. And so, getting to work with these movie guys, Damien and Justin, who have such great experience with the movie form, we felt like we were in really safe hands to bring what we like to do from the theater world, and it was a really wonderful marriage of worlds.
Right. Now, give us some insight into the process of writing songs for this movie. I'm assuming that there was a screenplay written that I guess had descriptions of what he was looking for, or how did you come up with these songs? Where did they come from?
Yeah, well, I'll say we got a script originally from Damien, and there would be paragraphs of, there's a song moment here that's going to talk about X, Y, and Z, and there were these titles I remember. So the first song that was called Traffic Forever, and the song that is now called Someone in the Crowd was called Roommates.
Or there was Duet.
Duet became A Lovely Night, or Ballad became City of Stars. And it was just,
there was sort of like, it's just these individual sort of slugs that basically said, like, the scene would read and then say there'd be a moment here, and then we knew there was music as well. Justin Hurwitz had written these gorgeous melodies and these beautiful compositions that then it was our job to come on and take what Damien was saying we wanted, and then take the information that was sort of inherent in the DNA of the music. That told us so much. Listening to what Justin had written told us so much about what we wanted to feel and experience during the song. So that then paired with the storytelling that Damien was looking for, those were our roadmaps in a way. And so we would take those and do some initial passes and work on some material to then bring to the group. And then we would all often sit together and work out, really hammer out the fine details together in the room.
Yeah, and Damien is such an incredible director. He also obviously wrote the screenplay, so he has such a mind for story. And then because he's also the director, he also knows every shot that he wants, when the camera's going to swoop this way, when we're going to focus in on one particular character. And so for people who attempt to be dramatists like we do and tell story through song, it was so helpful and really invaluable to have Damien as the director and writer of this, to really be another collaborator in the room with the two of us, and also Justin, to really make sure that we were always telling story, always telling narrative, and to be able to have someone like Damien say, this is the shot where we're going to go here, then we're going to focus on her face, then we're going to swoop around the corner. Then we were really able to write to that and know the kind of guideposts to write a story to fulfill what Damien's vision was.
You mentioned telling story through song and furthering the narrative. I wonder if you could elaborate a bit on that and maybe give us a couple of specific examples of how you did that through these songs in the movie.
Sure. It's something that I think a professor of ours once told us in college when he was comparing pop songs and theater songs. He would say, pop songs are like adjectives in the way that they are about a feeling, and the music kind of washes over you and it gives you a feeling of something. And theater songs, the requirement is that they're like verbs, that they are action based and that they move. So once the song happens, you can never go back. It has to change what happens in the story, and it has to change what happens to the characters. So hopefully what we've tried to do, and it's the same in what we try to do in writing theatrical shows, is that when a character sings a song, the story moves forward. So I guess an example of that would be A Lovely Night, for instance, would be an example of, after the two of them sing that song, you know, they have this sort of song and dance of, are we going to like each other, are we not? They can't go back to a place where they, you know, were sort of being tentative with flirting with each other.
And that's a really good example, because it also lets us shine a little bit of light on some of our other collaborators, which is that's a good example of, I think, of a musical song taking advantage of what you can do in a musical, which was, we got the song to a certain place lyrically, and then actually the story is told through dance as well, which is a really cool thing that Mandy Moore, the choreographer, in collaboration with Damien and obviously Justin Hurwitz, created a whole moment where there's story being told through their dance, and they're coming together and they're dancing around each other, and then they end up sort of almost in a romantic dance, and then it falls away, and they say, we're not ready to go to that place yet. But even another song like Another Day of Sun, which is the opening number, you know, I think we were just thrilled that we got the chance to really, Damien was very specific in that he wanted these songs to dive into people's real stories, and that he wanted real specifics. And, you know, girl talking about coming from, you know, a small town in New Mexico, or, you know, any of these stories of people from all over LA. And that's what's universal about it, is everyone has their story of how they got there, what they're pursuing, and how they bang on doors, and how they're chasing dreams. And in those, as we often talk about, you know, in that specific is how you access the universal. And so I think, you know, in terms of storytelling and lyrics, it was exciting to get to have a team that was very open to, no, let's go specific. Let's be really detailed about these stories, and not risk like, oh no, just need to say general things because that's what people relate to. They really were interested in, let's dive into the nitty gritty.
And it's because it's based in real character. You know, we really got to dive into that and get to write specific lyrics, because you get to know Mia, you get to know Sebastian, and not only just the great dialogue that Damien has written, but the way that they're brilliantly portrayed by Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling, two of our great young American actors. And I guess Ryan is a Canadian actor, but fantastic actors. So, you know, we felt like we had permission to be able to get much more specific and tell songs that are theatrical as a result of that.
Well, let's delve into two other songs, the two that are being submitted for Oscar consideration. Let's start with City of Stars, which is sort of like a theme to the movie. It runs quite a bit through it. Can you talk a little bit about that song?
Sure.
Yeah, that song was the music of that song is the first piece of music that we ever heard for the film,
and then we became addicted.
Yeah, exactly. And it was sent to us as we were sort of interviewing for the job to be lyricists, and it was the first lyric that we set, you know, based on that melody. And you know, I think we were so inspired by what Justin Hurwitz wrote for the composition of that song, because it's a haunting melody. It rises in major and then falls back to minor. And I think sort of, as we've been talking about some of the music recently, and it really sort of encapsulates what I think Damien wanted to encapsulate in the film, which is this sense of hopeful optimism, and at the same time sort of the bittersweet, harsher edge of chasing your dreams as well. And I think that's evident even within single lines of the music of that song. But you know, Damien really took us by the hand and led us in terms of the tone that he wanted. And I would say the first lyric that we wrote for it, we didn't exactly have a full picture of what they were looking for, but what I feel like we could tell was reading the script is this wanted to feel contemporary, of course, but also classic in certain ways. And there were so many things that were nods. There was such an homage to classic musicals. And so I think that's something that we tried at least to do in the lyric of the song, was to make it feel like somewhat throwback and somewhat classic, but still like you could relate to it today in 2016.
And hearing Damien talk about the vision of the film too, it's obviously about these specific dreamers, these specific lovers, Mia and Sebastian, but it's also that Los Angeles is a mecca for people who want to pursue crazy dreams and dreams that might never come true, but they wake up in the morning, and even when the world beats you down, even when it kicks you, it does it with a smile. And you wake up the next morning and the sun is shining and there's a reason for optimism and you're going to chase it. But what was so evident in the music that Justin had given us in City of Stars was that even though it's very longing, and even though it's all about this desire, this want for love, for dreams, for these things that are big pursuits, it also has a little bit of melancholy to it, and that there is this it was a really beautiful balance in the script and also in the music of this sort of balance of the desire and also the reality of heartbreak. And I think we were really attracted to our collaborators' vision of wanting to sort of balance both of those things. So we got to write City of Stars really as a song of longing for love, and also as for two people, but also the city as a whole, and that Los Angeles is a place where those things coexist.
Right. And then the second song that's being submitted, Audition, which is the song that Emma Stone sings at the end in Audition. Talk a little bit about that song, because I mean, it, her character has this great arc, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't seen the movie, but as much insight as you can into the writing of that song.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that song was very much inspired. Again, we keep coming back to Justin's music and to Damien's words, but there was such, as we said before, such a roadmap for us on this project, and it was inspired by the beautiful music that Justin had written for it, and also, it had started as she was going to come into that scene and read audition sides, read lines from the audition she was going to be part of, and we talked about that a little bit back and forth with Damien, and I think we sort of rubbed up against it a little bit because we thought, oh, I'm not sure how that's going to feel for her to be singing lines, and then she transitions into lyrics, and how does that work?
Rest assured, Damien had a vision, and he was like, "Trust me."
Yeah. Well, I think, but I remember us saying that then made him sort of, I think about like it pivoted it just a little bit toward the story, and he was like, "Okay, I know what I want to do," and he wrote a beautiful monologue that really was the basis for a lot of the lyric of that song. And at least in terms of the story of Mia and her aunt, and all that. So that was really the springboard for writing the lyrics for that song, was a beautiful monologue that Damien wrote, and how to take that story and again try to twist it to feel like it was a universal idea.
Yeah, and I think as artists and as people who wake up every day trying to create things and knowing how sometimes impossible it seems, the song, I think, the idea of the song really connected to us before we started to write it, based on Damien's monologue in the moment in the film, because it's about this pursuit that is hard and scary and messy and heartbreaking, but it gives you a reason to kind of be alive, is to make things and to be creative and be given the chance to try to say something in the world, and so we were really attracted to the idea of wanting to write a song that Damien encouraged to be about that process, and to be about chasing after impossible dreams because you feel like you need to, and it was really meaningful to us to get the opportunity to write that. And then the last sort of element of it is the incredible performance that elevated the material to such a degree beyond our wildest imagination. When we first saw Emma sing the song and saw how she imbued every lyric with such, so much weight and such a personal, there was so much, there was such heart in everything that she did. It really transcended anything that we wrote and made it something completely her own. And we feel incredibly lucky to be associated with that moment and that performance. It really transcended anything that we could have imagined it could be.
Well, ever since the film first premiered on the festival circuit, it's had a big impact on everybody who's seen it, and I think has hopefully made people rethink making original movie musicals, so you guys can keep working.
Let us.
What do you hope people take from this movie when they see it?
I mean, I think we're very I don't know if we get to say the word proud, but we're very proud of our colleagues and our collaborators and the work that they've done on this movie. I mean, if nothing else, that people would take away the incredible care and love and thought given to the filmmaking and Damien's masterful work. It's beautiful and one of a kind. And the first time we ever met Justin and Damien, we sat and talked through inspirations and films that they were in love with and we were in love with and favorite musicals. And their love for those pieces is so clear, I think, in this movie. And so I hope people take away that and, take away the fact that sometimes, stories don't end up exactly the way you think they might, but we have the ability to affect or change each other's lives in unexpected ways, and to keep dreaming and keep pursuing passions. And there's a line that's in the movie that people become passionate about what you're passionate about, or people care what you're passionate about, that Sebastian says. And I hope that's something that people take away from the movie.
I think I think it was such a risky thing for Damien to decide that this was the movie that he wanted to make. And he's been quoted as saying, "No one would let me make this movie." And then I made Whiplash, and then people said I was allowed to make this dream project of mine. And I think people, especially us who come from the theater world, the music theater world, we can't believe that Hollywood is giving an original movie musical a chance, because it feels like a really rare thing. We feel incredibly lucky to be a part of it. And I remember when we were in Venice, we got to go to Venice, and it was the craziest experience that we've had probably in our lives. And when people seem to be getting excited about Damien's vision for it, I remember saying to Damien, if this works out and people are responsive to it, beyond just the success that you might have from this film, you're going to allow so many other people to get to create musicals again. And I think that that's a really exciting thing, that Damien is giving permission for people to access this form that a lot of people don't think they might like or don't know that they would like. And because he's done it so beautifully and with such care and with such love in every single frame of this film, that people who might not know that they would enjoy this art, this genre, might discover that they do, and that's a really beautiful and inspiring thing for us as guys from the theater world to get to be a part of.